Today, I want to share the integrated network and cybersecurity in the commercial real estate. This is a hot yet complex topic, so I hope to answer some of your questions, the history, the whys, the needs, and the inherent challenges. Montgomery Technologies began as a riser management company. We started installing building networks and quickly realized that we needed to integrate them into a single, secure, and managed infrastructure to not only address the dwindling riser core space, but system integration and physical and network security. So these buildings had a big challenge transitioning from siloed analog systems over to IP. It has been a slow and expensive process that most building managers and owners don't understand and definitely don't want to pay for necessarily until one day legislations increased and so did tenant demand. In order to track the usage, make adjustments, lower consumption, Title 24 in California and New York's Climate Mobilization Act forced these buildings to put their systems onto the internet. But when you don't have an integrated and managed network in place, you have to either install a new one or plug yours into the existing internet. But who manages this process? Building owners, well, hey, I have the perfect group of people. Let's put it on the corporate IT. But they weren't allowed to build the network or spec the gear. They just had to deal with the problems when they arrived. And they didn't necessarily understand the complexities and the need of integration. So third-party base building system network engineer was born and management company. This new responsibility was to ensure that the switches and firewalls had managed software updates, white labeling and black labeling of IP addresses in an SLA. You have to not only allow authorized devices to talk to each other, but remote diagnostics. So the typical switch that the third party or the base building system vendor would put in there is unmanaged. They aren't network engineers, so I don't blame them. They need to get their systems up and running. But from a physical security standpoint, number one, you can't lock unused ports. And as you very well know, cyber attacks are very apparent. Barracuda Networks just released that there's over 600% increase in phishing email attacks. Who logs onto there? The engineers, the building staff, but they're all connected to the base building network as well, possibly, hopefully not. And drive-by malware has even increased as well. So over here is a actual screenshot of buildings that we manage, have firewalls in place. You have source IP, the target building, and the target IP, and then the ports, last hit, and 36 times 4 seconds ago at all those buildings. So it's real. A couple years ago, we hired a white hat company to conduct a legal and non-invasive study to find out just how apparent the problem is. By simply typing in an IP address associated with the BMS range, they found over 38,000 BMS systems were accessible over the internet. No username or password. So the typical building system today looks like this, traditional. You have your siloed base building system networks that are not secure and still being accessed by vendors and property managers. It's a Band-Aid with outdated, vulnerable, and unmanaged devices. How are you going to get raw data out of this? How are you going to manage anything? So here's the end game. Put simply, it's single, secure, and managed network that is capable of fully integrating any and all existing and future systems. Sometimes it's a fiber backbone, sometimes it's just a firewall and video cameras plugged in, but it is integrated. So the need for all of this is now, the demand is growing, as you can see. But how do we tackle this transition and change? How do we do it in a methodical way that allows expansion and systematic integration? How do we make way for completely automated controls and remote management? Well, most of today's buildings require some level of retrofit. With all these disparate and siloed networks, building owners and managers need to understand what they have in order to make the informed next steps decisions. They have to find the potential vulnerabilities and create a systematic approach and plan to tackle this. So integrated base building systems looks something like this. This is an as-built. If you want access to all these networks from a single location on site or even in the cloud, with this system, you can get it, right? That's the intention. And as time goes on, you can plug more systems into it, such as people counters and touchless tech. But a big driver of all this is the remote access and remote connections. It was typically just via the BMS, so they could support the chief engineers and the other engineers. But now we need to be looking at uploading all this building information to the cloud and have operations be completed in real time and remotely. But how do you do it securely? Once you integrate your networks and ensure that they are secure and managed, these systems need to be monitored through OSI stack layers 1, 2, and 3. This ensures that no data access or packet content is visible. Once implemented, you can usually just seamlessly access all your data safely. So the commercial real estate industry, as you guys know, is forever changing and always evolving, introducing new technologies from touchless tech and digital twins and things that I haven't even thought of or can even imagine. But one thing's apparent, and that is the need to have an integrated and secure network. To quote ours truly, thank you, James, we need to let our habit of a silo creating fall by the wayside and start thinking about the building as one system. Need I say more? But he's right, and so is Troy Harvey and Terry Hare. You need a solid connection in order to access the critical and real-time systems for decision making.